Aloha and welcome to the Neutral Zone.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year. So many men sold away. And I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and faith. Made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his face. Pleased to meet you, hope you guess my name. But what puzzling you is the nature of my game.
Aloha, this is Jason Schwartz, October 1st, 2018. We're on KAKU 88.5, which is a half FM, in Kahului, Maui, and I'm your host, Jason Schwartz. I have a guest with me, KE'EAUMOKU Kapu. Some of you, when I say that name, say, wait, Kapu, that means... do you know that there's a race now for OHA, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and that we on Maui have a representative that all of us vote for? Yeah, some of you know. But we have a candidate who has to run to all the islands to get himself known to represent Maui. And so we thought, you know, of all the races, the race that really could use some public understanding and awareness is OHA. And I have to be fair and have the other candidate on as well, Ms. Lindsay, if she chooses to be on. But I wanted to give you the time. Whenever I've known you, when I first met you, aloha.
Hi, aloha.
Thank you for being here at our show.
Glad to be here.
The Neutral Zone, it's anything but neutral. What that means is we speak to everyone about everything, but opinions are allowed. In fact, I think the thing that when I first met you, you were running for council on the west side of Maui, maybe 6 years ago, something like that?
I think it was around...
Maybe even 8 years ago.
Yeah. Longer than that.
2010, maybe.
Yeah.
But when I met you in KE'EAU, the first thing I felt was tremendous, I don't want to seem funny, mana, or what I felt is tremendous energy and strength and leadership. You had just come back from a meeting on the Big Island.
Yeah.
What were you doing there? What was your role?
I'm part of, it's called Napapakanaka Opu Kola, which means the men of the mound of the whale. And we have a heiau, which is a national park that we care for and do rituals and ceremonies there once a year, normally in August. So it's a pilgrimage that we normally take to recognize and identify our heritage, our cultural beliefs, and, you know, to try to collaborate with a lot of Native Hawaiians throughout the state of Hawaii to come to a place and to identify ourselves as the richness of the culture that we serve in the state of Hawaii.
Well, you were so full of presence. When I first met you, I thought, well, we'll see how the council race goes, but I don't know this guy. I like this guy. I'm going to watch him. So over the years, I mean, when I was getting ready for this show, I mentioned to you about wanting your laundry list. You have a laundry list of places. I mean, if someone would go to your website, they'd see it in more detail, but you have been involved in cultural commissions and work projects and things in all kinds of ways. You've also had personal direct experience in the courts of the United States, defending title of land and being successful after almost 2 decades. I'm sure you'll share with us. Plus, you've decided to run for OHA, and I know that in America, I'm purposely giving a big upfront thing because I think this is pretty much your stage. You've, you know, anyway, maybe I should break in. Very experienced Hawaiian man running for OHA. We as U.S., how does that work? Rice versus Cayetano was a lawsuit many years ago. and I'm not giving you this to explain, but in that lawsuit it says, wait a minute, everybody votes.
Yeah.
And so now we, even though we're not Hawaiians, we vote for the OHA seats, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs seats, which means whether we know it or like it or not, but we have this decision to make. And it would be nice to know who our candidates are and why, all over the state. But in our own example, we have a representative for here. And I've met a man with heart, and that's why I brought you on. Why did you decide to run for the OHA seat? Do you feel you could do something there?
It's been a passion of mine for a long time, understanding the rules that are subjected under the state of Hawaii. And you mentioned about the Rice Cayetano case. That one was detrimental to Native Hawaiians because we didn't have the percentage of votes that we needed to be complacent in the legislation. So when Office of Hawaiian Affairs was formed, it all happened during the time of the Constitutional Convention of 1979. It was to address the crimes that have been placed upon Native Hawaiians from the time of the illegal overthrow. So the Office of Hawaiian Affairs was formed to have a voice in legislation based upon revenues that came out from the state legislation's ceded land revenues of 20%, to address Native Hawaiians' health, housing, as well as education, to have a voice in legislation for the benefit of Native Hawaiians to have an equal say based upon gathering rights, access rights, when it came to development, pristine lands, on ceded lands, that there were voices in the community that could address those kind of problems. So I've been kind of a strong advocate, I would say, pretty much over 20 years. Been involved with a lot of the sovereignty organizations from the past, 1986, 1987, Kalahui, Hawaii.
Yes.
Been involved in a lot of other Native Hawaiian organizations as well. Then, when I first moved to Maui, which is the heart of my father's birth, I really got involved in the Cultural Resources Commission. I was actually appointed by Mayor Alan Arakawa at that time. That was some years ago when he served his first term right after KE'EAUMOKU. Then I also served in the Maui Lanai Island Burial Council. I did a full 8-year term, and 4 of those years I was the chairperson for the state Maui Lanai Island Burial Council. Then also I served, man, I have a list. I served as the Native Hawaiian Historic Preservation Council for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, to listen to the concerns from the constituents or the stakeholders of our state to address issues and concerns with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I served a full capacity of over 9 years as the chair of the NHHPC, Native Hawaiian Historic Preservation Council, and also in the federal level.
So now, here I am, I'm a listener. Yeah. KE'EAUMOKU Kapu, K-A-P-U. You'll see it there, it obviously says Jonah KE'EAUMOKU Kapu is running for the Maui seat of OHA.
Yeah.
If you're hearing this and you live in Hawaii, you have an opportunity, if you like this man, to vote for him. Whether you're Hawaiian or not, no matter what island you're on. So we're spreading the word. We've got a megaphone because this is a race that's hard to run.
Yes.
So we're hoping that this interview gives you presence. I mean, your level of experience shows me that if you were sitting at a table of counsel, your experience is great. And you've been in touch with a lot of people, and your voice speaks for many and has had experience listening. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
Or is that overboard? I mean, you have the experience because you've been living this 20 years. I mean, 1978, you came back, let's say, 20 years ago. 98, you talking?
Yeah, about 1996.
Okay, and I'm not sure where you were before that, but here in Hawaiian Islands and on the mainland. But you've been to fight in the American courts for so long, and to also have experience like you have. Why haven't you been, or have you been, recognized before and in front of OHA or with OHA?
Well, OHA is, I would say, a good opportunity to really start to address a lot of the issues that we face as Native Hawaiians. So my whole jump and my whole reason as to why I put my name in the ballot is because I understand a lot of the policies and, you know, all those, you know, what they have placed in on a state level, on the planning as well as the county council, on the policies that were set forward to address certain issues. So I've always been an advocate to make sure that if there are issues that are pending for missing components within the Native Hawaiian community as consultants, my kuleana always draws me to the county council to provide testimony to make sure that we're not left out of the box when it's talking about water resources, ocean resources, land resources, you know, all those kinds of things. So trying to be an advocate.
I mean, I saw you recently at a meeting where in Kihei, it was a meeting of a developer that was planning to put condos and a medical office facility and senior housing, and they did their best. But right in the middle of it was something that suddenly, I use this word sparingly, trumped all the conversations going on. That was the rights to these lands and the history of this land, even a history of the way water moves, which was never considered here.
Yeah.
And here we are, you stopped the meeting cold by your truths and your expressions there. That was a very powerful experience. The people that didn't want the development turned and honored you. I don't know if you got that completely, that they felt that the Hawaiian issue and this guy here, you know, expressed it so eloquently that the developer himself, I hope, have they come forward to you as yet?
They've emailed me. My position at that time is the CEO for KE'EAUMOKU Maui Inc. And when the different mokus call for support or consultation to help provide information that would be detrimental to the development, this project stemmed off the mega mall. And, you know, originally when we were in front of the Planning Commission, none of the issues of Native Hawaiians was ever addressed. So it gave them an opportunity to go back to the drawing board. The part that I really didn't like was they drew something together without consulting with any of the Native Hawaiian communities.
Shall I point to an Oahu experience of Safeway, is it? Right there in Ala Moana, where they have graves.
Yeah.
They're isolated in the middle of a giant complex. To say that they're not honoring
yeah, that was the Walmart project. Yeah.
Excuse me, Safeway. May you have a problem here in Maui. They've got a problem. See, so there's all kinds of stuff going on. In fact, that was another experience where I saw you were out in force trying to make truth be understood.
Literally, when you're talking about the rules that are set for, say, for instance, the environmental impact statement. You know, once those are set out, they hire cultural consultants to address those kind of issues. The cultural consultant comes forward to the Native Hawaiian community to do a cultural impact assessment. Normally, those things, they go to people that they feel would be, you know, a part of the process that was provided by legislation, but really don't see or ask for information from the host culture that know of the place. So when I mentioned that, when I provided testimony saying, take off all the buildings, take off all the plans, and let's start from ground zero, what is actually in place. I also talked about the families that existed in those areas and the undivided interest that they still hold today. And they're being called to the table to give recommendations on the project, but we don't address the undivided interest part first. I think that should be done first. The history, the cultural heritage, the protocols, the gatherings of those areas before we can even go forward. and I think they went one step ahead.
That was well. You stated that very well.
Yeah.
And I like to cite, I don't know the details of your case, but if after 17 years you won, that should give someone, this mega mall that was in Kihei planned, it was rezoned for something that would be more I don't want to call it urban. Let's call it a mix of something useful inside of town, and the people were holding it up, and we know that's a gulch. That's a gulch. That means big water. You recently were, I want to say hero, one of the people working to help people on the west side of Maui with the floods that happened with these hurricanes and passing rains. Unbelievable.
The floods, the
See
fires.
what happens when you, excuse me, when you, can you say screw? When you screw with the land, you put an upper highway, and now the water comes down. Now there's flooding on Front Street. Now there's flooding in Olowalu. Now things are trapped. Now people are losing homes and running. You know, I'm not talking for the gods. I'm talking for the planners. What's the deal? And, excuse me, no matter whose land this is, no matter whether Hawaiians get the title or whether the United States get title, we better seriously look at some things right now. We've just been smacked in the face, I think, pretty easy. What's been happening with the water out there? I just can't help but go to that.
You know, and when the county as well as the state starts to put together, you know, the bypass has been an issue over 20-something plus years already.
Long time.
And, you know, right at the last minute, all of a sudden, the State Department of Transportation tries to do a Band-Aid fix, not addressing, you know, a lot of the issues of where the majority of water that comes from, you know, from the watersheds of West Maui, and how they're going to alleviate those things. I think they went kind of a little bit too fast when they made the determination. They cut off Nohono Pilani Highway on the entry into town, and that's where all the problems basically existed. I think the county, state, and the private sector are married to each other, you know, to the point where when you ask for community consultation from the right people of the area, it shouldn't be the developer versus the state DOT versus the county. I think you should have people who really are keen in understanding the lay of the land so we can do projects better. There's been too many times where a lot of the general community thoughts are placed aside, all because, you know, when private sectors say that, okay, the state has a, what do you call it, an eminent domain that they're going to purchase highways for the benefit of the general community and the public safety of all of us. A lot of things are missing in those components before they start to go forward. And we've seen prime examples of that just last week when the whole Launiopoko area and the new bypass just got flooded out. So it tells us something that they got to start going into the host culture to find out ways on how we can improve our livelihood over there to provide safety and health for the majority of people that live in Lahaina.
And in the short term, find a way to collect some of that water and be able to use it, because that's fresh water. It's not salt water. I mean, that's the other piece. If you've been following my shows here, for some reason I've been on a trail about water, and one of them is storage. And the biggest thing that I know is that the west side of Maui could use a lot of that water that is going and running and being a problem. So if you're a part of the government or if you're in the private sector, why not talk to the Hawaiians? I bet that they got some answers, because they've been reigning here a long time.
And that's the whole reason why Ahamoku Maui was formed, literally. It went through legislation, it passed through the House in flying colors. It went through the Senate, forming two acts, Act 212, which is the People's Bill, and Act 288, which involves the Department of Land and Natural Resources, to look at ways on how we can incorporate traditional resource management into our policies, and how we need to more reach out on the generational knowledge of those areas on how land management was done yesterday, and how we can incorporate a lot of those land management into our policies today to make sure that we're not withering away, or we're not dumping water. We're not making sure that, you know, like the biggest issue on the west side right now is the seawalls. You know, everybody talk about climate change. Climate change is really at its capacity where it's going to start affecting our environment. You know, those kind of things. I think a lot of the problems exist in the west side is land related. You know, like the septic systems that, you know, literally the county is getting penalized by the agencies, the federal agencies out there for not caring for, you know, our resources the way they should.
Well, and we had environmental management head on here, and they know that the west side is an area they need to address, and they're finding ways. And we're going to have a show on. We're going to talk about being able to create water from air and lessen the stress on the system. Use all the resources and things that are coming out of the effluent, 100%, and find ways of financing it. And again, you know, I'm talking ahead of ourselves here, but I think the private sector, Hawaiian and non-Hawaiian, however the banking system will allow, that the people with the land, the big resource, can be the tool for financing for a lot of the solutions to make things sustainable and to use Hawaiian knowledge and culture and the base Hawaiian with new things together. This is a funny time to mention it, but I went up to Hawaiian Homelands a week and change ago, and there's a lady up named KE'EAUMOKU, and she had a self-sustained water from air unit for large group and for individual homes. Imagine the things that we can do if we use the technologies of now and can bring back water to, for example, the Hawaiian culture wants taro, and they're talking about water. What would happen if the strain of civilization doing their thing in the civilization zone lets culture thrive because give you back water? I mean, I'm just bringing up examples. Is that the kind of thing that OHA does? Or, for example, because they were in the Hawaiian Homelands, I thought, you know, that's very clever of them to be self-sustained and be able to get financing through self-sustained, maybe with solar and power. These lands that they gave the Hawaiians that look like trash and the rock could all become examples of self-sustainability and give the culture a platform to rise globally.
I think OHA has great programs out there to help, you know, the stewards of the lands, basically. You know, there's a lot of lands that OHA has been pursuing, which was ceded lands. You know, for me, I would like to, you know, address the issue up front as pertaining to all Native Hawaiians that have a right to certain lands, you know, by giving them directions on where to go, how to seek for those things under the Land Commission Award or Royal Patents.
How do they go about that?
Well, it's all research. It's all simple research, and I think OHA should be the prime agency to provide the information for all Native Hawaiians so they can have the paperwork, they can have the resources to go deeply into where their families existed. You know, the Land Commission Awards, the Royal Patents. What does that mean in the time of the Mahele during the indices awards to quiet land titles in the state of Hawaii from 1897? You know, all these
this
things.
is a thing that you did personally. Does your case stand to be a boilerplate? Did you have any specific things that made it extraordinary, or was yours more common and others could follow that path?
You know, I tell a lot of people when you're dealing in the courts today, that the attorney's job for Native Hawaiians, against Native Hawaiians, is to prove that you are not the person you claim to be. So when you start to put your information together, when you see a quiet title adverse possession case in the newspaper, my hopes is to get families way ahead of themselves to start putting the information together so they have it just in case all of a sudden a development company or private land company wants to come out and quiet title lands. It'll give families an opportunity to address the issue on whether or not they still own an undivided interest of those properties.
So even if they're not doing anything with those properties, if they own them, they stand to be a financial resource.
Yeah.
Yes? You know, we're going to go in commercial here in a couple of minutes. I don't want to start a long, big subject, but maybe we can come back to it.
Okay.
But while we're gone, we're on KAKU 88.5 FM in Kahului, Maui. I'm here with KE'EAUMOKU Kapu, who's running for the OHA seat from Maui. He's running all islands. Can vote for him if you want. We vote for all of these OHA candidates, and boy, it gets crazy. But if you're on Maui and if you're anywhere and you like KE'EAUMOKU Kapu, you could vote for him. So remember that, because he's running to Oahu and Lanai. I called you. Trying to reach you was quite a job because you have quite a hard race to run.
Yeah.
You're running against someone who's somewhat of a celebrity. So, but I think that's maybe why we're doing this, to give you some presence and understanding in the ears and the eyes of those on Facebook Live or on my MauiNeutralZone.com. You can come to this afterwards, watch this show again, see a beautiful smiling face, see me who talks a little over the top. But that's why we say it's anything but neutral, because I wanted to have you on. I just have been very impressed by your presence and your command of and knowledge of the issues. And if I wanted someone to represent Hawaiians, I sure feel comfortable about you. So that's why I thought, hey, I wanted to bring you on. Now, I don't know Hulu Lindsay. I'm sure she's a nice lady. I look forward to meeting her. But I know I'm very happy that, I've gotten to know you and I've seen you stand and you've walked the talk in all kinds of ways that really is a lot, means a lot to me. It means a lot to these donors and people to get you on the, and hear what they have to say. They're going to come up here in a few seconds. This is the Neutral Zone. I'm Jason Schwartz. We'll be back in a few minutes. Hang on.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Aloha, this is Bill Best, inviting you to join me for my show on KAKU 88.5 FM. It's Off the Record, and I have a chance to speak with some of the most interesting people on and off the island. So be sure to listen in every Tuesday and Thursday from 11 until noon here on KAKU, the voice of Maui, 88.5 FM.
Funding for KAKU, the voice of Maui, is provided in part by
having the guts to go in and just say, I go through and I don't care what happens. You know, it aches, and if I fall down, I have no fear of fainting.
Fit or Fatality Gym, personal training and pro-level supplement center, located at 982 Lower Main Street, Wailuku. For more information, call 808-895-2567.
KAKU-FM 88.5.
Elevate your Thursday nights with Akaku Upstairs, a free salon series featuring speakers, screenings, workshops, and more.
On October 4th, enjoy a presentation from the Maui KE'EAU Foundation, who, with their filmmaking club, seek to educate and empower Maui's 12 to 18-year-olds to become future stewards of our natural environment.
Seating is limited, so call 871-5554 or email info@akaku.org to reserve your seats for Akaku Upstairs.
I want to thank my mommy for loving me so much, for taking me to the doctor when I broke my foot,
for leaving me alone when I wanted to be alone.
And now, as a grown-up, I'm thankful for being able to take care of you, my dear mom, for taking you to your therapies, for understanding that sometimes you simply want to be alone.
Roles change without us noticing. That's why AARP gives you the information to provide even better care for your loved one. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Saturday night at 8 and Sunday night at 9 on KAKU 88.5 FM, we experience dead air. Not that kind of dead air. We're talking Grateful Dead. Grateful Dead music for an entire hour. Saturday night at 8 and Sunday night at 9 with me, Corey Daniels, on KAKU 88.5 FM. Truckin', got my chips cashed in.
We're back. I'm Jason Schwartz. On the Neutral Zone, I'm here with KE'EAUMOKU Kapu, candidate for OHA Maui Seat. No matter what island in Hawaii you're on, if you like this guy, you can vote for him, even if you're not Hawaiian. Now, get a hold of that. You can vote for all the candidates in all the islands, and you get almost no information about any of these candidates. And then you're asked to vote, and this was forced on you, or given this opportunity, because in Rice versus Cayetano, he was our governor at the time, there was a big case, and so you've got not only an opportunity to vote, you hopefully have a responsibility to know who you're voting for. And it's been a little bit difficult. I mean, I don't know about you, but how do you do this? Are you Superman? How do you go to all these islands?
Well, it's not easy sometimes, but, you know, for like Maui County, it's really easy. I mean, we have the ferry to take me to Lanai. I have also families that own a boat that can take me to Molokai, you know, but that's the position I'm running for, is Maui County. But because of the Rice Cayetano case, it sort of decided that it was unconstitutional, that, you know, not only Hawaiians but non-Hawaiians are allowed to vote. So I'm kind of putting it out there saying that don't waste a vote. You know, a lot of non-Hawaiians feel that they shouldn't be a part of the process. They shouldn't be allowed to vote. But, you know, we're dealing with these kind of issues, and, you know, with, I guess, the ongoing support from the non-Hawaiian community, we can put the right people in place. Because it's been a hard decision for a long time that OHA has basically been kind of stacked when you start talking about, for me, having to fly to the different islands to candidate for my position as a Maui representative. I have to go to Oahu more than any other island because Oahu makes up 51% of the voter post for the office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Can you get that? 51% of the votes are in Oahu for a Maui seat, and he has to get known. Hopefully this radio and thing will help be a tool for you, because that's the thing that I learned about you. I already kind of had a notion. You've been doing this. You walk and you talk.
Yeah.
You're a Hawaiian who isn't talking without experience. How did you get to, you know, your case? Before I get to your case, there was a fire here. I don't know which to say. There was rain, there was fire. We had a fire on the west side. Take it away, please.
Yeah, well, it happened the night of the hurricane.
A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, I'm still asking for questions pertaining to what actually has happened. A lot of people claim that it was from a transformer, which Miko's transformers or power lines is nowhere within the vicinities of where my family live. And so I'm still asking for a lot of answers from that on how we can start collaborating with the enforcement agencies on how we can look at more ways of managing our resources as well, because Kuleana lands are families that live basically off the grid, that we're not provided any public utilities or public service. So the night when the incident happened, you know, it was very detrimental for my family, that, you know, especially the families that live lower from the Palakiko Ohana lost 2 homes, and my families live below that lost everything in their their Kuleana. So at the same time I'm running for the office of Hawaiian Affairs, I found myself kind of up against the wall to address the issues and concerns of my family. Came first. That was my priority. And now things are kind of a little bit slowing down and settling down. I'm prepared now to take to the roadways of my first initiative is to run for the office of Hawaiian Affairs. I wanted to throw out, you know, a big mahalo out there to the community for all the donations, the monetary donations, the food, the water that we've been receiving for the past 3 weeks. You know, when it came to something devastating at that, you know, the community really came out. You know, I'm pretty, at the same time, still upset at the state and county agencies that I feel that they really dropped the ball on this one. Because it's not only the Kuleanas got affected, but the private sector as well as the community, the general public community got affected from these fires too. So there's a lot of questions that I'm asking out there and how we can more tighten up at least a conversation between all individuals and parties, but first at the same time trying to get the bottom of what actually occurred that night.
You know, I had someone on Molokai said to me, it was a deliberate fire. There's this guy they know, you know, and there's talk going on. I don't know. I hear all these stories, maybe because I'm somehow understood as media, but people come at me with almost too much information.
Yeah.
But how's that investigation going? Any idea?
I've met with some individuals. Our state representative, Angus McKelvey, is trying to look at ways on how we can more tighten up our resolve as Kuleana landowners. You know, I've been asking out there on how we can more get adequate supplies, such as a fire hydrant within these Kuleana areas. There is no public utility, no public services. I met with the fire department, took them up in the mountain, and you know, their investigative report, and it's kind of interesting on, you know, what we found in the area, that, you know, the only place a fire could have came from, you know, would have been the private sector. So looking into those, trying to get answers for everything, because my family lost everything up there, and trying to juggle things around to make sure that I'm on top of the situation. My house, my two houses up, I live the farthest way up on top, didn't get affected. We got surrounded by fire. But thanks to my two sons and my nephews, I went up there in the early morning hours to actually fight fire with literally the minimal resources that they had. The water lines was all burnt, so they fought the fire well, and they actually are heroes in my book because they saved our homes from being a kind burned to.
So, thank you for that report. I think that, you know, you've been out there. After that burn, then the rains came. Did the area get affected by rain?
Then the floods came. Our building almost got inundated with water, but, you know, the canal systems were kind of used to that area.
Do you think that all that water that came down into Lahaina afterwards is because the fire is taking all the woodland?
Yeah, because there's no vegetation on the fields, and what went into the ocean was raw material. So, yeah, there's no vegetation to hold back anything up on the top. You know, the 100-year flood plan that was set in place.
Has anyone checked the quality of the water yet? I'm sure they must have.
Normally we do. Through Ahamoku, all the 12 districts on Maui, we have our own kits, we have our own GPS mapping.
I only wonder because, you know, I'm always hearing the thing about the DDT and all the runoff for years. Since '88 when I got here, and I saw it in 1983, Department of Defense, page 3 of their annual report. It talks about runoff of fertilizer causing algae bloom.
Yeah.
And I got here in '88, and they spent $200 grand on a study to find the same thing. I always wondered, that was like my early experience. What is going on here? The answers are here. We know what's happening. You guys have been I didn't understand all that was going on. I lived in Lahaina, and it was quite an experience when I got here to see that it was like out of another time zone. People weren't looking at things that were right there. That was '88. I got involved in politics in '92 and early on and all that stuff. To me, that was early on. Yeah, it's changed a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah.
20 years, and then they did the bypass. Meanwhile, they kept building properties and taking all the coastal lands. Is there any open coastal land on the west side anymore?
No, I think, you know, I think it was about 15 years ago when the state came out with the flood plan, the flood project, which was going to cost like somewhere around $38 million to get that, you know, forward. That never went no place. Somebody dropped the ball on that one, and now they're in front of us. The last meeting we had, they talked a little bit about it, and this meeting was, I'll say maybe about a couple months ago, that the state wants to continue the conversation about the flood project.
That's 40 years ago.
Yeah, so
that's a little slow. When Mike Victorino, we don't have time for all the things, you know. people have said, I'm getting involved in stuff I shouldn't probably, but Victorino and Ellie, both running for mayor. Victorino, some people say he could have made housing happen. I'm sure he'll say, well, you know, I got all these other guys to deal with. Now I'm going to be mayor. Ellie's talking and pointing about what she thinks and planning, and then she says, well, I can't do it all. I've got the council. What if the vote doesn't come the way? What do you think is going on here? How are we going to solve this problem? Hawaiians,
well, I definitely don't want to be the referee between them two, but I think that, you know, we have good potential, whichever way this goes, to make sure, because the beacon is lit already. The general community knows for sure that if the government is failing in their fiduciary duties to protect our resources, then one of them better step up to the plate.
No matter who's going to be there, that we need housing, we need this, we need that.
Yeah.
They better step up. So it's going to be this whole thing. And then here comes the Hawaiians. That's a whole layer that none of us are talking about, that you're talking about, which, I mean, that's really like a giant trump card.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you go in front of the county and everybody wants to push the environmental issue. But then when the Kanaka comes up, they talk about the existing laws under the Constitution, yeah, to address certain things, such as the cultural impact assessment. The county Administrative Rules 343 to address the historical concerns. You have the state where they have like Section 6E, Administrative Rules, Hawaii Administrative Rule 13300 to address Native Hawaiian cultural concerns. Then if projects are using federal monies, it triggers a 106 consultation with Native Hawaiian organizations. So I try to tell everybody out there that, yeah, environmental issues is a pressing issue. When you start talking about development and how it's going to impact the environment, but the key component to that is what comes from the discussion from Native Hawaiians on how to juggle the process to make sure the process is pono. If the process isn't pono, then a small little mouse, which is the Native Hawaiian community, comes out and says this project would be detrimental to the habitat and resources of that area, which changes the minds of our county council when they start to realize they got a point. We need to look at how we can.
Are they moving forward, or do they stop? Are they stopped?
Or they
like
stopped.
That developer in Kihei.
Yeah.
He stopped, and the environmental people there, they thought, hey, we're important, but this is even senior to us. So is the council now stopping?
I think they're getting very, very well educated. Ellie put out there saying that they should have people that are keen in understanding of these kind of concerns to be incorporated into commissions. Yeah, like the Ahamoku should be representatives from the Ahamoku should sit on boards and commissions, which is a priority.
I'm thinking, I get that. I'm pushing back one step because I don't want to lose my point about if any building and development happens or planning happens. I mean, I would like to see the titles the Hawaiians have, because you know, if we're voting on all this and we're voting for representatives for, I want to say, a government inside a government, at least that's the way it sort of appears, that they're trying to take this role of being in charge of Hawaiian Affairs.
Yeah.
Right? They've been appointed Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I don't know if they're respected by all Hawaiian groups, but
Office of Hawaiian Affairs has an opportunity to correspond with the planning.
Are they Are they getting involved in land and saying, well, I know you wanted to have new condos in Kihei, but that land is titled to our guys, and we think it's detrimental. So no condos. We need it on open space, and we want this to be open space. We want that to be open space. That would stop development. I mean, in my opinion.
OHA addresses,
not happening, right? That's not happening.
Well, I think OHA addresses like ceded land issues, if developments will be encroaching upon those ceded lands and how they will be impacted.
Only ceded lands, then.
Yeah, only ceded lands.
So
but
the other issue is then the reinstated nation of Hawaii and other groups too?
Yeah, OHA would serve in a capacity of representing, the Native Hawaiian organizational communities. If the communities come out and they feel that this project will be detrimental to their life and the resources of the area, then OHA should be the one standing in the front line, providing the testimony, sending the correspondence to the planning department that the permit or application for the planning department to provide for services in the private sector, those things need to be cleaned up.
Well, I'm saying what you said. I'm just trying to get to the fact that the council's hearing it, but they're not letting it lead, which means no development has been stopped because someone said, hey, we've had carrying capacity on our land, that's our land on title, get that? We're first, we say no. That should stop like everything, or potentially. So that's not happening yet, right? But yet, isn't this confusing people? And yet, we have an Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Now, do we ask them to stand up against their papa, who's funding them and keeping them going on about title to land? No. And we're looking for representatives that we all vote for to represent the Hawaiian people. What? I don't know how that happened, but here we are. So here's a Hawaiian who has lots of, it seems, hands on, feet on, mud and fire. You know, I honestly, I just wanted to put all this together because it's very confusing. If it's confusing to me and I'm trying, I feel sorry for the people out there.
We need good leaders, that are serving office right now.
Yeah.
And what's not happening is, I always provide testimony out there. The county council, even the state planning commissions, the land, the water commissions. I'm always there because the great concern is where the private sectors are now building their capacity and making money by forming public utility companies. So those resources that's supposed to be beneficial for the public trust doctrine, we see a lot of those things slipping away. Like that just came out with the Water Commission on the reacclimation of water being put back into the river. All those kinds of things, because the state is now starting to understand that our fauna and our species are being jeopardized, so now we need to put water back in the river. All those things is the kind of things that I've always been addressing and I still want to address, and that's the reason why I put my name in. I had to run for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs because we need better representation out there for our constituents. At the same time, we need leadership that can levy not just the Native Hawaiian issues, but the non-Native Hawaiian issues and the environmental issues, on how we can put those things together, how we can weave that AHA core together, and all the input that we get from the private sector, the general community, the non-Hawaiians, the Hawaiians, and how we can relay that together to make this one collar, this one rope, to assure that the resources will be protected for the benefit of the people that live here in Hawaii, in all Hawaii, not just Maui. As my position running, I understand, the heart and will that it's going to take to make sure that we start pressing a lot of these issues when we talk about resolutions and policies and ordinances and rules.
Well, you're a popular guy. Saying those were not voices from the sky. By the way, this is KE'EAUMOKU KAPU. I'm Jason Schwartz. We're on KAKU LP. That doesn't stand for long play. I think it's low power. Radio, 88.5 FM on your dial, Kahului. Also on Facebook Live, and also on MauiNeutralZone.com. We're building a library of, we hope, good shows so you can hear issues. And our first candidate, you're a really welcome guest in this. Oh, we had Nikhil Ananda, first show before election season got started. And then I haven't had anyone else on. But you're really a guest that I think needs this vehicle to be known on other islands so that people know who you are. You've been doing this with or without any elections, and you've been at this
and
for
at
such
a
long
zero
time.
budget.
Wow. What's it like to be in court? How's that? Can you kind of navigate us down that stream, what that was about?
Yeah, well, it was, I think, a good 17 years that Makila Land Company filed a quite thorough adverse possession case against properties that are related to me. So I entered pro se at the time. 17 years later, you know, mahalo to my first attorney. His name is Richard McCarty. He MacGyvered me through this maze of how the judiciary works. Then I lost him back in 2015. He died of cancer.
I'm sorry.
Then right after that, Lance Collins, which is my attorney now, took up the torch and started guiding me in the direction which it went right into a jury trial where the jury made decisions that KE'EAUMOKU Kapu owns 100% of 6507 to Kuleana lands in Kaula Valley, whereas Makila Land Company owns 0. You know, there was a big eye-opener for not just me, myself, but a lot of Native Hawaiians who have gone through the same course and still going through the same course, that my success becomes everybody's success. And that's exactly what I can bring to the table. When we're talking about, you know, what am I going to bring to the table as a trustee for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs? These are the exact kind of things that I can bring to the table to make sure that our Native Hawaiians are just adequately in the judicial system today. So it's a great success of mine that my win becomes everybody's win. And we can look at possible resolves and solutions on what the outcome of 17 years, how we can pick and choose in there what would be beneficial for other families that are going through the same.
That's terrific. Yeah. Well, you know, you want to talk any specific Hawaiian issues inside of OHA Seat itself? Let's say now, here you are, OHA representative. Any issues that are immediately coming up? There's someone serving now. Anything that you might want to direct in any way that you'd like to?
Yeah, I think we got to create more programs to give a lot of our Native Hawaiians hope, you know, out there, that there is succession in a lot of things by going forward. A lot of our Native Hawaiian communities, you know, out there feel that, you know, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs have been robbing the, you know, the people for a long time. You know, one of the biggest, hardest issues is FedRec, for the Department of Interior. You know, my thing about that, when anytime anybody mentions FedRec in the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, I think it's none of their business.
What does that mean, FedRec? Recreation?
Federal recognition to Native Hawaiians, placing us under the Indian Affairs, the American.
So it's none of the business of the United States, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that our people should decide our own fate, and it shouldn't be OHA. OHA is a state agency.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's what I meant about a nation within a nation like the Indians.
Yeah.
Versus a nation deciding its fate. It is a little challenging, being that, you know, my grandfather, born in 1893, that was a big event so long ago. And there's nobody living now that I think maybe I could be, but no one living now from then. And so a lot of people, in truly understanding the story, you know, we kind of get ashamed being white and being colonializers with nowhere to go, all the resources and everything. Turn this into America instead of being Hawaiiana. I'm hoping, you know, I guess you'd say I'm my neutral stand. I'm hoping that the Hawaiian culture can flourish and that the spirit of these islands can be back in Hawaiian hands. And as far as land and what to do, what's best for everyone, that's for future discussion. But I recognize that you are a leader of men and women who've had experience in the trenches. And, you know, if I'm a voter, I'm a voter. And I feel good about you.
Mahalo.
I like that. I like that you aren't talking without really hearing people's opinions, and are those opinions, but you're out there, aren't you?
Yeah. Every issue, every topic that, you know, basically would come about for Native Hawaiians, you know, in the health, housing, and education field. You know, I also spend time in Oahu to look at the bills and listen to the bills that are going through legislation. You have the Department of Hawaiian Homelands that has a plan in there to provide more housing for Native Hawaiians. You know, Punana programs, Kula Kaiopuni programs. It's a strong foothold for our generations upcoming to make sure that we grasp the knowledge or the ike of the past in our children with full Olelo Hawaiian speaking children out there. You know, there's great opportunities for an existing nation of Hawaii that we can most definitely be successful in what is provided for us out there. We just gotta MacGyver through this maze of politics on how we as Native Hawaiians count in this whole maze of I don't know, production or destruction, whichever way you want to put it.
Well, I hope in what we do, no matter who owns and controls, that we have the love and aloha that I feel and know from you, and the strength. Whether you're sitting in the seat or not sitting in the seat, you count, and you count to me and what I'm voting or not. And I hope that we all can become part of the solution. Well, that's going to wrap up our show here today. I'm with KE'EAUMOKU Kapu, OHA candidate for Maui Seat. No matter what island you're on, if you like this guy, KE'EAUMOKU Kapu, you can vote for him. So remember that. MauiNeutralZone.com, you can hear this show again and any of our shows. We're going to jump off here in a minute. Thank you for being with us.
Mahalo, thank you.
We're going to do some more talking. I know we are.
Definitely.
Thank you guys out there for being here. Thank you, KAKU. Thank you for Cash for Gold, Carmine Alone, and themaui.miracle.org. This is the Neutral Zone, signing off on Monday. I'm your host, Jason Schwartz, and here is Aloha.
Aloha.